Hey guys, so I just got back from church and I had a great conversation today with a military spouse, and I'll get more into that later. But the one thing that I've come to the epic conclusion is there's a disconnect between veterans and the general public. There's so many groups out there, the veteran to veteran groups, that help or reach out to vets and try to get them to deal with a lot of their issues. There's a lot of those groups, but there is such a disconnect between the general population and understanding the way vets are. And I think the biggest issue I have is we're not outing it. Okay, no one is explaining why veterans are the way they are. So there's this standoff-ishness, that's a thing, where people just go, well, he's a vet. And it's like there's a persona in that of that's why he is the way he is. He's a vet. Well, that's semi-true. But like I get to talk to my wife about, it's so much deeper than that. So what I felt a calling to do as I was sitting in church today is I'm going to start being that guy where I open up and explain why veterans, from my understanding, okay, this isn't true throughout the board. I don't know everything. I don't, okay, but I can speak to some of it. And I think it's important that our followers, who are so in love with first responders and veterans, understand or have a general understanding of why veterans and first responders are the way they are. I mean, you guys probably think, well, the reason why he sits in the corner is because, we go to a restaurant is because he's constantly thinking of what happens if a terrorist comes in and tries to shoot the place up or something like that. There's just this generalization that, well, that's the reason it is, or the stuff on the side of the road, that's why he swerves and this and that. Yeah, part of that is true. Some of those legends are definitely true. But you're not getting the whole picture, and you don't have enough information. And until we as a society start accepting that there's a purpose and there's an understanding of why folks are the way they are, we can come together and we can unite. So back to my great friend who's making huge differences. Veterans like the idea of coming together with other veterans and having conversation, open that up. Here's the issue with that. You have to get them out the door, because it all sounds great, but in reality, we're a bit antisocial, okay? And it comes down to expectations. And the biggest thing is team. And I'm going to get to that. So the message I'm going to give today is, regardless of the branch or regardless of your affiliation with the law enforcement, border patrol, EMS, whatever it is, there's purpose, direction, and motivation. Okay, it's pounded into your head. Purpose, direction, motivation. I want you to just kind of, if you write that down and you think about it, purpose, direction, and motivation. So when you join the military, even if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, or you're joining law enforcement, purpose, direction, and motivation is just slammed into you. Camaraderie, you know what I mean? Team, constant team. And that from day one until the day you walk out the door, whether that's 3 years, 16 weeks, 1 year because you got injured, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, however long you're in it, that is, you hear it all the time, purpose, direction, motivation. Now I want you to take those folks, okay, that have been doing it, living it, eating it, breathing it. I want you just to take that all away. You hear it every single day, all day long. It's just pounded into your head. And then one day, you're going to walk out the door and all that's going to be gone. Every bit of it. Unless you get a job that is parallel to that. Okay? So when you take an individual that's been team, and just take it away and take away those three aspects, you're gonna have a lot of remorse and a lot of loss and a lot of misunderstanding, because they can't look to their left and right and feel comfortable. So when you say, hey, we're going to go meet up with some veteran buddies, or, we're going to do this, I want you to get involved with this group, there's constant mistrust, because the trust, the camaraderie that you have between those folks that you spent whatever amount of time with, there's that brotherhood, sisterhood, and so on and so forth. Once you take that away again, so now you've taken away purpose, direction, motivation, teamwork, camaraderie. Again, you're a square trying to fit in a round hole. Okay? So you're going to notice that veterans, a lot of the time in the military, they make constant eye contact. Okay? They don't look down, they don't look away. They stand at the parade rest, the position of attention, whatever, and they're making constant eye contact. Okay? That's just what they do. Now you're going to notice when they get out of the military, you're going to get the opposite. That sense of belonging, whether it be respect for you, the general population, or how they feel about themselves, creates that awkwardness. The older vets seem to do a little bit better with it. The younger vets, the thing that I've noticed when you're starting to talk to them is they don't feel that worthy, because the bad thing about the military, and I'll say it firsthand, you can never have enough. There was never enough medals, there was never enough war, you wanted to make your buddies proud, you wanted to make your families proud, and regardless of what they've done in their lives, they do not feel that they have met the standard, because it was never enough. And I don't care if you did it, you ask anybody retired after 20 years, they'll say, yeah, I'm glad I retired, but I could have stayed in a little bit longer. I could have done this, I could have done that, I never should have got out. Same thing with police officers. I could have made it a few more years. EMS, firefighters, my knees started to go bad, but you know what, I could have made it a little bit longer. It's never enough. So that's why you're going to get that lack of eye contact, and they're always putting themselves down. We've all met those certain individuals that chatter, they were war heroes and stuff like that. I am excluding them, because they're not the norm. They're not the norm. I'm not saying they haven't done their job and everything else. Some people are just like that. Because you get vets together, they'll tell stories for days, but they'll tell them to other vets. You know what I mean? It's when those individuals just popping at the mouth about everything. We call them the one-uppers. Okay, they're out there, but I'm excluding them. Okay, and I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying they're a different type. You're also going to notice veterans, first responders, all those folks that have done it for quite some time. You're going to see that they're big-time protectors. Okay, they could care 2 cents about themselves, but you're going to see that when the kids are running around, they're constantly on alert. Where are the zones where the kids could get run over? How could they get snatched up? You can be at McDonald's back in the old days with the balls that they jump into and the little playground and everything else, and those veterans are constantly on alert. Moms are the world's toughest, you know what I mean? Because that's built into their system anyway. And when they're veterans, it's even worse. Okay, they're constantly on alert. But you're going to see that they're protectors, but at the same time, you're going to see they don't do the greatest job to protect themselves, because they don't feel worthy. And that's, notice these little trends. I'm not saying call them out, but when you see it, don't freak out. Be like, Mr. or Mrs. Antisocial. Man, it seems like they're on alert all the time. You need to understand why. We talked about letdown, and the uneasy. Another thing you're going to see, that most veterans don't like the spotlight. They don't like the spotlight because team in the military and on the police force and everything else comes before the eye. In fact, it's very rare. I've had numerous awards given to me just for doing my job, just like everybody else, or moving from one unit to the next. And if you would have sent my team up there as a team award, I would have been totally fine. I wouldn't have been nervous or anything like that. You put me up there by myself, and I absolutely can't stand it. It's just like my mother says, man, you're so good at reaching out to people and everything else. I said, yeah, that's great, Mom, when I'm talking through this camera. But you put me out there by myself in front of live people, and I'm a duck out of water, okay? Because I don't have that team that's with me, okay? You also see that a lot of veterans get out of the military and they want simplicity. They want something very basic. Man, I just want to do my job and go home. That's it. Because they don't want to be out there where everybody can see them. Okay, what I noticed when I came out of the military the first time, and I've been out twice, is the general public has a terrible habit of using your military time against you. There wasn't a day that went by that people would be like, man, I thought you were a sergeant. Why are you making this mistake or that mistake? You know, and they just grind it into you. Or they'll use it to their benefit and say, well, you were at this, go tell them to figure it out. Okay? You haven't earned my trust. You haven't earned that veteran's trust. And that veteran, because veterans are terrible at communicating with each other. I have some of the greatest friends in the world that I trust, that saved my life numerous times, multiple people. When I could have went around this corner, they're like, why would you do that? That's stupid. Doesn't it look like a choke point to you? Why would you breach the door without checking this? Why would you do this? Why would you do that? One time it was about a road cone. Why would you go out and get the road cone? We could just drive up and get the road cone. And then my roommate ended up getting shot because he did the opposite. When you could have turned left, when you could have turned right. But there's a camaraderie, and there's teamwork, and there's trust built. And it's not just given when you get into basic training, oh, I trust this guy to my left and right. That's not how it works, or the academy or anywhere else. You know, that is earned. Now, you're going to take that person and put them in the civilian world and expect there to be trust. That's not how it works. I hate to say it, and it's not anybody in the general public's fault, but we don't trust unless it's earned. You haven't walked in our shoes. That's how we look at it. It sounds very arrogant, self-centered, and all that stuff, but that's not how it is. It's just that is what we were built into. So you're going to see vets when they finally do come to the table, when you finally drag them to the table and they start talking to another veteran, you're going to see it's almost like a love affair because they're speaking the same language. It's just hard to get them to the table. I'll close with this because I could go for days. Another one is going to be agitation. Getting grumpy. I hate this one more than any because they're like, man, he must have post-traumatic stress. He's pissed all the time. The military runs off of time. Okay? When you're given a task, it has to be done timely. So when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it right away, to a military member, that is like you're disrespecting them. And when you lose trust in the military, it's dangerous. We can't wash that off. So we immediately implement that on you. And then what you're going to hear a lot of the time is military members be like, he's a civilian, he doesn't get it. And it's almost like we're trying to downgrade because we've lost respect for you. It is so hard to communicate with veterans. I don't care who you are. It is hard to communicate with veterans. The best thing you can do for a veteran is listen and let them get it out. It's going to be hard. It's going to be super hard. The hardest job in the military? Military spouse, military mother. I've said it 100 times. I've deployed 3 times. My mom's deployed 5. Okay, because her husband deployed. The grief, the unknown. I'm telling you right now, it's a lot harder on her than it ever was on me. Why? Because I have a team. I have a team that I see every single day. I go to sleep at night. I sleep better in combat than I do at home. It's a true story. That sounds silly, right? But it's a true story. Slept like a baby overseas. Sometimes almost overslept. Because I knew if someone came through the door, I got a battle buddy that's going to jump on that grenade, jump on that person before it gets to me. 100% trust. You take all that away. That camaraderie, that brotherhood, sisterhood, task, condition, standard, that direction, purpose, motivation. And it helps you better understand why veterans, first responders are the way they are. So before you're quick to judge, and I'm going to try to make this, for those of you who want to listen, I'm going to try to keep putting these out and try to get tidbits. Today I was just kind of all over the board. But I'm so sick and tired, and it's a fault on both sides. I'm so sick and tired of us not getting the information out to the civilian world and talking to the veterans about how to adjust back into society. You got to remember, you get your DD-214, you're going to hit the VA, and that's it. Yeah, there's the VFW, there's the Legion, there's the this, there's that. But if you look at society right now, and you go to those VFWs, those Legions, those all those places where veterans link up, you're going to see an age gap that is huge. Because the Global War on Terrorism group is not walking through the door. You're going to see Vietnam veterans, some Korean veterans that are still there. You're not seeing Global War on Terrorism guys because they don't feel worthy. They weren't in a war of marked individual bad guys. It's probably how the Vietnam guys felt around the World War II folks and the Korea folks. We as a community have to open up. We have to be willing to talk to our veterans and understand them. Read some books. Listen to some interviews. We're all on the same team. These folks, these first responders, these veterans, they fought in your stead, and they're not better than you. That was just their job. The only difference is when you retire from an engineering joint and everything else, you have a community of people you can communicate, because that's the daily norm. These veterans don't do that. Because once the teamwork is lost, because they feel like when they got out of the military, whether it was at 1 year or 20 years, it wasn't enough. So they don't talk to other vets, so they have no one to communicate with. This misunderstanding is the reason 22 people, and now it's more, 22 people are dying a day in the military force due to suicide. I didn't even mention first responders. If you watch the crazy news, you know that that stat goes up even more. These are heroes. Whether they want to admit it or not. Whether you fired a bullet or not. Put that in your think tank. I am trying to work so hard. And again, I'll close. I'll get there. I want to try to work with a great friend of mine here in Texas, and she's doing amazing things. She married a veteran after he got out. I can only imagine the stress of that. Okay? I can understand if you kind of lived through some of it as a military spouse, but she has literally researched her bum off to try to understand why he is the way he is. She had to do it alone. She didn't have those other Army spouses be like, well, I've heard, or I've learned, or this is my experience, but she's outreaching. And when I talked to her, I said the hardest thing to do is get veterans to the table. Because once you get them together, that's when you're going to see miracles happen. And then it has to be consistent. I wish veterans would meet up once a week. I wish that was the case, but you got to remember we're spread out all throughout the world. But I believe God has a calling for me to help my brothers and sisters and our EMS brothers and sisters to where we can all work in harmony. Where we can all try to understand each other, and we can be not a crutch, but a lifeline to help one another. So that's the thought of the day. I am not perfect. I have never admitted I had problems until a few years ago. They said, well, maybe you have post-traumatic stress. No, I don't. Maybe you have depression. No, I don't. Maybe you have anger issues. No, I don't. Maybe you have whatever it is. I wouldn't admit it until I went overboard. And luckily, my family said it was okay to get help. You're not weak. Because I was on the tipping point, folks. Veterans won't come forward, especially folks in the military. They won't come forward for their depression or their anxiety or their post-traumatic stress or any of their issues because they're afraid that the military will send them on their way. If I'm wrong, prove it. I guarantee you can. All you have to do is look at when they send out these taskers to fill out surveys. Look at the statistics. If you took all those veterans, took them away from that computer, put them in a room, said you're safe, or those folks that are still in and said, okay, now, if you weren't going to get in trouble, and I can guarantee it, do you think you need help? You're going to see a lot of hands raised. Because they feel safe, they feel comfortable, and they don't feel like they're going to get kicked out of the military. It's the same thing with veterans. We can make a difference. I feel that Ruck for the Fallen, we're going to make a difference. We're going to save a life. The question is, who's going to jump on board? Who's going to help? If you've watched this whole video and you've made it through the 21 minutes of me talking out in my lawn, you know that I am desperate to save lives because I have been at that point where I was about to let my whole family down. And I've had to find purpose, motivation, and direction from other areas, even though I'm still in the military. We can save lives. Buy in with me. Send me your ideas. Reach out to those veterans, those first responders. Go and talk to them. I said it last night. Go and talk to them. You have no idea how important that is to just go and talk to them. Shaking their hand, slapping them on the back, telling them they're great at what they did. That's great. Talk to them. Build trust with them. You'll be amazed the difference you can make. I love you all. Have a great day. Have a great Sunday. Have a great week. Happy Veterans Day. Deeds, not words.